The psychology of money is fascinating, but man, it can be absolutely ruthless. Let's dive right into today's explainer, where we're looking at a story drawn directly from our source material about how an unchecked ego can just completely destroy a fortune. It's a pretty sobering look at how massive success itself can actually become a trader's absolute worst enemy, basically undermining the exact traits that created that success in the first place.
So, I want you to ask yourself this. What would you actually do if 500 bucks suddenly turned into $100,000? Right? Most of us think that kind of explosive return would instantly solve all our problems and set us up for life. But for one trader with absolutely zero Wall Street connections and no institutional backing, achieving this exact dream quickly spiraled into a profound psychological nightmare.
Chapter 1: The $500 Dream. Like so many people, this trader was just exhausted by the relentless grind of living paycheck to paycheck, chasing that ultimate prize of true financial freedom and time independence. He didn't just throw his money in blind, though. He put in the grueling hours, watching the charts, learning the patterns, and eventually depositing that initial $500. It wasn't Wall Street money, sure, but to him, it was literally everything. And yeah, his early trades were rough, fraught with rookie mistakes and panic, but he refused to quit. He just kept iterating and refining his edge. Chapter 2: The Winning Streak. After months of painful trial and error, something finally clicked. His strategy locked in with the market conditions, and those tiny, hard-fought profits began to snowball into an exhilarating winning streak. He was catching absolute fire. Now watch how quickly this compounds. It all started with that initial, humble stake of $500 actively working for him in the market. In a flash, it grew tenfold to $5,000. But you see, something else was growing right alongside that account balance, and that was his pride. The market was handing him what felt like undeniable proof of his own brilliance, fueling this dangerous belief that he just had a special edge the rest of the world didn't understand. Soon enough, it hit $15,000. At this stage, his brokerage account basically became his identity. Friends are asking for stock tips, families treating him like a financial prodigy, and let's be real, that kind of validation is incredibly intoxicating. But beneath the surface, it was quietly warping his reality. And then he hit the magic number, 6 figures, $100,000. The dream fully realized. But hidden inside this massive triumph was a ticking time bomb, because his ego was actually scaling way, way faster than his portfolio. Chapter 3: The Ego Trap. The crazy thing here is that crossing this massive milestone didn't bring in peace. Instead, it triggered a dangerous emotional shift, where suddenly $100,000 felt like pocket change. He needed $200,000, then $500,000. The goalposts kept shifting, ensuring no amount of money would ever feel like enough. There is a razor-thin line between confidence and overconfidence. Confidence relies on strict rules and managing risk. Overconfidence, well, that ignores the market, increases position sizes recklessly, and assumes you simply cannot lose. And this is exactly the trap he fell into. He completely abandoned the careful rules that built his wealth in the first place, assuming he was somehow invincible. His greatest enemy wasn't even the market anymore. It was his own human nature. He was under relentless attack from 3 psychological forces. First, greed, which pushed him to desire more and over-leverage. Then ego, which told him to just ignore the rules because he was exceptional. And finally, fear, which was waiting just around the corner to make him abandon his plans entirely. Chapters 4 and 5: The Big Mistake and the Crash. This is where the narrative takes a really dark turn. High on his own hubris, he spots what he thinks is a sure thing and completely abandons probability. He aggressively risks a massive, ruinous chunk of his life-changing portfolio into this single idea. And, well, the market did exactly what the market does. It moved against him. At first, he wasn't worried, but let's look at how this downward spiral played out. It started with an initial loss, but instead of acting mechanically and taking a quick hit, he found himself refusing to exit. Then cognitive dissonance took over, and he started doubling down. Careful strategy devolved into pure, paralyzing hoping. And guys, in the financial markets, hope is a widowmaker. Within days, tens of thousands of dollars evaporated, until the entire account suffered a total collapse. When the dust finally settled, the emotional damage really took over, leading to the ultimate toxic behavior, revenge trading.
That's when you make desperate, emotional, and highly risky trades in a panicked attempt to immediately win back massive losses. Naturally, the market punished this panic, mercilessly wiping out whatever tiny fraction of capital he had left. Chapter 6: Lessons Learned and the Antidote. Following the crushing isolation of this total financial collapse, he was finally forced to face the harshest truth of all. The market does not care about your feelings. It's a completely neutral mechanism, indifferent to your ego, your intelligence, or your past successes. So, how do we avoid this? We have to look at the discipline of survival. You must protect capital above all else. Respect risk management relentlessly. Keep your emotions completely out of your trades. Remember that hope is not a strategy. And finally, understand that the goal is longevity, not quick riches. The traders who survive long-term aren't always the smartest, but they are absolutely the most disciplined. There's an old battle-tested market adage that perfectly sums up this entire explainer today. Making money is important. Keeping it is even more important. This trader learned the mechanics to build a fortune, sure, but his unchecked ego completely blinded him to the psychological resilience actually required to keep it. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Will you learn this critical lesson from your own devastating mistakes, or will you learn it from someone else's? Because in the market, and honestly, in any ambitious wealth-building endeavor, consistent life-changing profits only truly begin on the exact day that your ego ends. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay disciplined out there.